This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agnew.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agnew. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Monik Pamecha. Did I get it?
Yes, you did.
Beautiful. All right. He's from Toma.com. Manik, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you, man?
I'm good, Jay. Thanks for having me.
You got it. So tell me a little bit, where did you grow up and did that have any impact on you being an entrepreneur?
So I grew up in Bombay, in India. It had, the place, I would say is very close to New York in terms of like the spirit. So it's like everybody's hustling. My father had a small business. My mom was at home. So, we grew up watching my dad work all the time. And the only days off were like maybe like 6, 7 hours on Sunday, and that's about it. So it's like, I guess you grow up with the mindset that grind is the norm. Like my dad was like, why aren't you working? Like, why aren't you doing those kind of questions. So yeah, you just look up to your parents as kids, and then that's what I did. And then as I grew up, more and more things started happening, and then I just happened to be very interested in playing computer games. And then, finally, like at the age of, I don't remember, I like maybe 10 or something like that, I got my first computer, and then I started like playing with it, and then started making websites. And there's like a long story back that we can get into that, but I feel like it's just been one event leading to another, like that has nothing to do with it. It's just randomly, things just happen, and then I end up doing something, which resembles a business. And then I realize, okay, this is what I want to do. This is more fun, and I keep doing it.
Yeah, I think that describes a lot of people's stories. I don't think some people have a nice little, nice package of like this, I did this, and then other people are just like, I did all sorts of shit, and then it actually worked out. So maybe you're in the latter bucket. So tell me a little bit, what was your first business you tried to start or you did start?
So this is a really funny story. So I don't know if people know about WordPress. So that was like something that was really big in like 2006, 7, something around then, when I was like, I think I was 11, 12 years old, when, I just was trying to make websites. And I was like, let me make a website for fun. And you're in school, and kids are dumb and cruel and stupid, So I was like, I had a friend who had a lot of like body hair, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a blog and like write about this Harry Potter. And I just wrote that. And it's actually funny because, this showed up on like, this was covered by like some magazine as well later when they did a profile on me. And I just wrote a blog, and it like, all the people in the school like went and read it because, first a website, like, what is that? And they go to their parents and they're like, search for this, and this shows up. So that's how I like first made a blog. And I was like, okay, it looks like people can read, like they can come and read what I wrote, and it sounds interesting. And I was always very interested in technology. The first thing I really did was I started a tech blog. And it's actually still my email address, that I've been using for like, I don't know how many years now. And when I started writing the blog, I think that's when TechCrunch, Mashable, Engadget, like these were blogs that were just coming up. They were like very new at the time as well. So I was covering tech stuff, writing news, and I was like, again, I looked up a little more how to make money online, and there's something like Google AdSense comes up, and I'm like, okay, you can put ads in your blog. That makes sense. And then WordPress did not allow you to do that. So WordPress.com was a place where you could do like a self-hosted blog.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, looks like a new challenge has come up. Now I need to, host again, a 13, 14-year-old. I'm like, what should I do? I need to find a different way to host this website. So I'm like, oh, PHP, this programming language, this hosting, all domain I got to buy. Like, I go to my dad, and my dad's like, what do you mean you need to spend? Like, again, I'm spending in rupees, not in dollars. So it's like, I think $12, which was, I don't know, 400 rupees or something like that at that time. And he's like, why do you need that money for like something online? Like, what is this? Because they don't have any technical background. My parents are like, they just studied like commerce, dropped out of college, and then just started doing a, retail business. So it was like a lot of explaining and like getting into it. And then finally I go ahead and like set up this blog of mine, and I start writing, and I put ads, and then it starts making money slowly. And that's when I realized, okay, there's some potential here. And the real reason for me to actually make money was I used to use the internet a lot, and at the time, there were like dial-up modems, so you would get billed on the time you used it for. So it was like your phone line is engaged, and that's it. Like 56 kilobytes per second, and I would get like really huge bills. So the first month, I was like online all the time. I did not know what it would lead to, and it shows up, and my dad looks at me, and he's like, "What is this? I pay people who work at my shop like this much per month, and you're just blowing it away on like internet. Like, what are you doing? Like, are you watching porn? Like, what is happening?" And that's when that fire came in me when I actually started looking, okay, I need to monetize what I'm doing because I cannot have him ask me again that why are spending so much money. I just felt really insulted at the time, honestly. Um, and that's what like pushed me to work. And then fast forward some more things, the blog, I would spam the comment sections of like literally every other famous blog. So they were like TechCrunch and all of those guys banned me, and I would try like different emails. And obviously, like the spam filters weren't that good, but I somehow like got people's attention. And then there used to be this other website called Dig, which was like the Reddit of the time, it was like
Mm-hmm.
front page of the internet. And we hit like the front page. I would like live blog Apple's events, all that kind of stuff. And then slowly we grew it. I made a revenue sharing program, got like 17 other authors from like different places. So, their ads would show up on their content and like the site would get content, all those kind of things. As part of that, used to write tutorials on like how to make a social networking website, something like that. And then people would actually read that and then they would reach out to me and they're like, look, it's so complicated. I don't want to do it. Can you do it? And then that's the next phase that led to was like, okay, I'm writing about technology, but that seems all right. I want to build technology. How do I do that? And then
Mm-hmm.
more people were coming to me and they're like, Facebook was, getting really big in 2000, 6, 7, right? Everybody's like, there were customers who came to me like, I want to make a social networking website for fishermen. So I made Fishbook. I made somebody was like in Central Park and they were like, okay, we want a fitness train. I was like, I want to make these communities for people. So this was all me. I was just using these open source softwares, but they kept reading my blog and coming to me. And I was like, okay, let me do this, let me do that. So that was really, I mean, the blog was obviously the first time I made money, but that was like more like publications.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I made money the first time when, I had, I think a law firm reach out to me, it was somebody in India, and they saw like, I love your blog, and can you make this for me? Just make a website like yours for me. I'll give you like 4,000 rupees. That was like $100 at the time. And I took it to my dad. I'm like, here, like $100, like the check has arrived. And then like, please do not, bother me again. And he was like, looks like it has some legs.
Beautiful. I love that story. I mean, that's hustle kind of personified. I love that a lot. So let's fast forward a little bit. Where did Toma come from? How far in the journey was that? Was that kind of more recent? Like, how long ago was that? Like, when did you kind of think of the idea? Where did it come from? What is Toma?
Right. So I always wanted to do a startup. Ever since then, I was like, once you catch that bug, you're like, okay, I need to do my own thing. I need to do something. You just
Yep.
don't know what, right? I feel like one of my favorite authors, Hunter Thompson, I think he goes on to David Letterman's show and he says, I always love that line that he says. He's like, I'm trying to prove something. I'm just not sure what. And I think that kind of like summarizes how I felt for a long time. So that was in school. So that was in high school, like me doing all those things that I mentioned. I go to college. It's pretty clear I need to do computer science. I was like, I just love that thing. I'm gonna continue to do that. Then I finished that, and then I go. And again, at the time, I was like reading about Silicon Valley and like the bear, and I was like, there is no way in hell I'm gonna go anywhere else. Let me just go to grad school there. So I was like, because maybe all the smart people are there. You read all that, you see videos of like Steve Jobs saying something at the Stanford commencement speech. Just being a middle class person, you see that stuff, and you're like, okay, maybe that's where the stuff is. You don't take too much, go there. So I came here for with that in mind. Always, I worked for some time, but again, like even when I worked for like 4 years, after grad school, and then 4 or 5 years, and in that period, I was like always trying to do something. I don't know what I need to figure out. I need to do something. First, the problem is like I don't know what I need to do. I don't know who I need to work with. How will like all those questions, right? So Toma was really when it all came together. So I had been trying to work. I've been working with other people, trying out to work with find a co-founder, use co-founder matching, which is like some YC websites, and meet people, try to do these projects. Nothing really worked out until I meet my current co-founder, who's also in New York. So I'm in New York at the time. Oh, yeah, I moved to the Bay. Then I decided to go to New York because I was like, okay, I also need to look after my personal life a little bit. Let me have some fun. And then I go to New York. And then that's where I'm working for 4 years. So I meet my co-founder over there. Again, we don't know what we need to do. We just meet each other. We're like, okay, it looks like we both have the same problem. We want to do something. We just don't know what. We'll figure it out. And then we start doing things together. Toma, we picked that name because it was neutral. At that time, we decided let's just pick something so that we don't have to buy a new domain every time, and make sure that we can keep experimenting. And first time founders, what we were thinking is that, so let's do something that we all share, like we that are our own problems. And so we started making a diet recommendation tool for chronic conditions, patients with chronic conditions. Spent some time doing that. um, what I'm trying to say, I guess, in summary, is that we never really got to where we are today through like a straight line. It was always random things that we kept trying, and then
Hmm.
something like works, and then we probe more, and then we go more in that direction. So it's, descent, like just finding your way in the mess somehow, just hoping it'll work. So we do the health stuff. We get banned on like subreddits, Facebook groups. Again, we're trying to promote it, get users, and absolutely nothing happens. People hate us and they roast us completely. Even in personal messages, publicly, it was really awful, honestly. But at the time, we decided that, all right, let's just make a spreadsheet of like all the possible things that we think we can make. And let's go down in that list one by one until we hit something that we think has legs. And that's what we did. I think I think the fourth idea on that list was AI phone automation or something like that. And we tried like three, again, nothing happened. The fourth one, we're like, we just put it out on, I think on Reddit. And this was not even a promotional post. The post has so many views even now, and I get customers from it. I just wrote like, I'm making this thing, this looks really cool. Would anybody want to try it? Like, that's it. I'm not selling anything. And then immediately it blew up. I got so many comments and messages. And they're like, I have this application. Can you do this for me? We actually found a true first customer from there.
Tell me more about the posts. Like, what? Why do you think that one was successful? I mean, I'm a huge Redditor. I'm a huge fan of just Reddit. I was also a big fan of Dig back then, and I think it was very like Dig versus Reddit at some point. Like it
Yeah.
was, you were one side or the other. I was definitely a Dig guy back then. But tell me about the Reddit post specifically because it's an interesting medium where I will actually, depending on what I'm trying to find or what I'm trying to look up or whatever perspective or opinion I'm looking for, I
Yeah.
will actually append Reddit to the
Yeah.
end of my search to try to find a conversation around it. So tell me a little bit about that. It maybe sounds like you were hitting on that a little bit before it was super popular as an option to kind of search for things. What was the post? Why did you make it? Like, give me a little more details
Yeah.
around it.
Sure. So what I thought was, I think that was actually not even on business subreddit. I think it was on like, so when GPT came out, there were some of these subreddits where people are experimenting with it. So I think the people who
Hmm.
were going there were like, oh yeah, this tool exists. How can I use this to improve my business? Again, this is all in hindsight. I just saw Chat GPT. I'm like, I made some like weight connection that, okay, I think people might like this. And
Hmm.
what I truly was trying to do was like get, people's feedback on something. I was like, this is something I made. I can give you a phone number to call. Just try it and tell me what you think. Like,
Right.
is it good enough? Like, do you have something better? Like, it was me asking them because I was trying to validate that should I even go down this path?
Hmm.
So it was just out of like genuine, I guess, curiosity that I'm like, what is out there? Like this is all I have. And I was so honest, like nothing about it is promotional. Nothing about it was, of any of that form. It was just me not selling, just like asking. And a lot of people share that sentiment, and I think people opened up as well. They're like, this is what I'm trying to do. Like, have you tried this? Can you move this?
Hmm.
Like, I have this kind of business. And I think it comes from the fact that obviously there must be some inherent desire and need in the first place, right? Like, I'm not giving rise to that really. I'm like surfing on a wave that already exists, of demand. Of course, I didn't know it back then, right? Later, you find out, but there has to be some inherent thing. So it was more like trial and error. I mean, that's probably one out of, I don't know, hundreds of posts I've made, with a lot of different accounts and, engaging a lot of comments. So that's just the one that worked. Of course, a lot of like failed ones too,
Mm-hmm.
which either means people, either my post was bad or there's just no inherent need for what I have. Again, I don't know which one of the two, but I think it's most likely the first case because like human desire, like that desire needs to exist, and then, that desire must be greater than the motivate, that desire should be greater than the inertia that's
Mm-hmm.
stopping you to do it. And that was the case because we had a pet company from Australia reach out to us. We had a company from UK who was doing like call centers, receptionist software, for like businesses. There was one multi-level marketing company in Florida. So it cannot be a coincidence that all these like, different people have like the same desire. They're like, I want to automate something like this. So
Mm-hmm.
it must be something. It's more like you stumbled upon something as opposed to I like created the whole like, this is exactly what they want. Uh,
Right.
yeah. So
And so, what is Toma today? Like, after all your research and trying
yeah,
different things, and like, what is Toma in its current iteration today?
yeah. So we started with AI phone automation and we wanted to work with all companies and all domains initially. And that's what we did for a few months actually. We even applied to Y Combinator, the startup accelerator, and we got in. As soon as we got in, I think they tell you that you have like 70 days now. There's demo day, and it's more like the culmination of everything you're doing. And we're trying to like make money. Okay, at this point, we're like, okay, great, people are using it. That's fine, but like, who is willing to pay? Like, who is really getting value out of what you have? And then we realized, oh my God, we have a problem because none of these guys are like, it's not like valuable enough for them to pay, or you can really create so much value. It's the thing about entrepreneurship. I think every time you do something, you feel good. And then the next thing comes and you're like, oh my God, all over again, like things just break down and you're in this constant, turmoil. Uh,
Right.
so yeah, at the point we're like, okay, what should we do now? We have all these like few customers, some customers are really slow to adopt your technology because a bank would take forever. The procurement phase is just going on. And then we have like a deadline of like 60, 70 days. I mean, I don't think we'll show up with just one contract and people are gonna laugh at us. Um, so at the time, again, serendipity, one of the customers happens to be in the automotive space and they were building something for a car dealership. So we have one car dealership, one bank, one airline, one healthcare, outfit, which has like maybe 6 locations, one pest control. It was just all over the place. And this is just one of them. Okay, and then we try to build something for all of them. Again, we're failing miserably. But one of them, we make something and it works well and they don't say anything for 2 weeks. They just go and then they come back and they're like, this is great. I have this other dealership. Like, do you want to, do this for them? And we're like, sure, why not? We do that. Then like 4 more come. And then it just happened organically. And we're like, okay, I guess this is what it means when something has like staying power or, there's like, again, inherent value. Like
Mm-hmm.
it took me a while to understand that. Like sometimes people always portray that, good salesperson could just go and convince anybody to buy anything. You can't convince anyone about anything, right? What
Right.
you can do is you can assess what they have, like validate that, and then connect the dots if there is, like the scope of like really providing them value because the desire exists. So
Right.
I've actually started thinking differently about I'm not shaping anything or changing people or anything like that. We're just experimenting and we're probing for the truth. And wherever we see evidence of that, we like further, go, you know, investigate and like do more things. So really, that's what happened. And then one point we decided, all right, let's just double down on the automotive space. Let's just work with car dealerships because there's real value. Again, this is
Mm-hmm.
all we didn't even know. Like none of us ever owned a car before for a long time. We did not know what it entails to get service. How do you deal with dealership? Like the fact that they're missing like 33% of their phone calls. They're like 18,000 franchise dealerships, 290 million cars in the US that are being
Mm-hmm.
sold are on the road right now. So they're being sold through most of these dealerships. So it's a massive market, massive opportunity. Cars need service. They're calling, a phone call happens to be the number one way to get service or at least, initiate contact with the business. and then they have staffing issues, you know, in inefficiencies, and then they get like 100,000 calls per dealership, and they drop like 30% of them per year. Like again, we didn't know any of this at the beginning. We just walked
Mhm.
into it. We kept building, kept trying, and that's really what happened. And we doubled down, and then Toma became AI phone automation for the automotive industry. That's, you know, that's how we arrived here.
That's a beautiful arc. It's the ultimate shotgun approach. You know, you're just like probing at things and then you find the one that hits and you kind of double down and you go after it. I feel like there's so much to this story, but I have one kind of final question for you. And I'm interested for your answer because very similar entrepreneurial spirit, I think, to myself. And I feel like you've tried maybe a bunch of different things, but this is a non business related question.
Okay.
Just Monik being Monik.
All right.
If you could do anything on earth and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would it be?
Then that would suck. I don't know. Because to be honest, like, I think the thrill of doing something actually comes from the real threat of failing or like dying or something like that. Like, if you take that away, it's so bland, right? Like, I would rather not live at that point, right? Because then where's the thrill? What's the fun, right?
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair. I've gotten that answer before.
Because,
I think that's a fair one. But
right?
what is there
That,
anything on your bucket list that you would do today if you could?
uh, on my bucket list, I've never been to Europe. I mean, I'm a huge history buff. I really admire like just ancient history, medieval history, all of that, like just getting to places, doing things, exploring. Because again, that's just how I think. Because in my mind, what I want to do is I'm just curious. I want to know everything about, you know, the world and the way it is and why I am the way I am. And I feel like the answers are, you know, out there, and I want to have the time to go study that and understand myself and others better. And I think that's what I would do. Just study history and go around and like actually, I don't know, like even fossils. I'm just obsessed with fossils. I love like checking out fossils. I buy like these small pieces that we find that are like 100 million years old, 50 million years old. It's just, yeah, it would be something related to that, where maybe I would just become a historian and then just study.
I love that. I've never gotten be a historian is the answer to that question. So I think you're unique in that regard and many others as well. Monica, if people want to find more about you specifically and reach out about anything they heard today, how do they do that?
Yeah, so my email is monik@toma.com. And, you know, toma.com is our company's website. We're also hiring our founding engineer. So if you or somebody you know who's, you know, like an exceptional computer science and just a startup mentality person, then please send them our way.
Beautiful. Absolutely will do. It was great to meet you, Monik. I hope people reach out and best of luck with you and Toma.com. All right.
All right. Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Monik. See you, man.
Bye.